Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hang on a second. So good. I'm just going to do my usual little bit of secretarial thing here. And then we just, awesome. Okay, then. Today we are doing episode number 298. I am so pleased. I'm so happy. I'm so excited that this is working. It's so cool. And one of the reasons it's just lovely is because it's bringing people together. It's connecting us on a different level. Facebook, YouTube, all the stuff that we do, chit-chatting back and forth, bumping into each other on the street. But then these videos, and the Zoom calls that I'm having and the Facebook lives I'm having and the getting on the phone, sobbing and pleading with people about the website I'm having. It's layers and layers and layers of just really feeling connected, and if you make the interesting decision to look at the news to see exactly where we are in the overall scheme of the connection is so important. It feels like almost anything is possible when we're doing it together, doesn't it? And so I'm finessing an aspect of Pivotry in motion. I'm finessing thanks to this incredible, lovely accident. We've got an incredible partner now working with us, bringing it together from different angles, and I've made the big decision in my career for the first time ever to officially invite some of my brilliant, talented swamis to join my team and join it, as independents. So we're all kind of looming in on it from our own separate angles. I'm not starting a business. I'm not I'm not the woman who's living in the shoe with all I have the shoes. I'm not living. And so, navigating how, who does what, for whom, with whom, when, and why. Good morning, Charles. It is a brand new thing for me. My entire career, I have basically done it as a solo. And when I was on a project, I would bring in key people for the project and then thank them and hug them and, give them their thing and send them on their way. And because it just was too complicated to do anything more long-term than that. And also, show business being what it is, I can't afford you this week, I can afford you next week. So, but this moment, this conversation that began, gosh, it's a week ago. I can't believe it, but it's a week ago. It's literally a week ago today. We started having this conversation about what if we look at it this way? What if we look at it that way? What happens if? And it suddenly went, ta-da! And I know I'm sounding really kind of vague, and I promise it'll become clear very soon. And the key word is unforgettable. That's the word of the day. That's the secret code, unforgettable, because it is and it's going to be. So anyway, that has been the massive juggling and reorganizing and restructuring and rethinking a formula that I have worked back and forth, up and down, successful and not so successful, my whole career, which is very interesting, talking about leveraging change. So in the middle of all of that, I was having a conversation with my brainstorming partner, and we were talking about ways to refresh and reset the level of excitement. And I said, it'd be really funny, it'd be really great if if people had Halloween costume scavenger hunts and there's sort of a blink worthy, oh my God. And I said, yeah. So what you do, is you're given a list, not exactly what you have to get, but you need something for your head and something for your, and you're given time. And so you don't say, I'm cosplaying, I'm going as this. You cobble it together and see what you come up with, and then invent a name and say, and people say, and who are you supposed to be? And you come up with a name. And I said it would be great. It would be a contest, instead of just a trick or treat. Oh, aren't you amazing? Ooh, you're scary. Instead of that, instead of just get the costume, shove the kid in it. Every Halloween, my parents dressed me as a bunny rabbit. I mean, you can see it, can't you? Every year. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I would do it today, except it would have the wrong connotation today. I love it. So that aside, the idea that we would breathe new life in the idea of showing up and good morning, Barb. Wouldn't that be cool? Would that not be cool for your little kids, your grandkids, your grown kids, right? You say, okay, here's the contest, here's the list, and you have 3 hours, right? And so the whole day isn't, we're going to get candy, we're going to get candy. It's a whole different take on it, that people get involved, not as spectators who are the little actor waiting for their costume, and then they don't really have any lines, and they're given a bucket and they walk around. It's great, but it's the Easter egg hunt, kind of. So I thought, and we're brainstorming it, and it's like Easter egg hunt meets Halloween. You got to go find the eggs, you got to go find the pieces of the costume, and put them together and say, how about that for a combination? Oh, that'll never work. Oh, wait a minute, what if we add this to it? And the idea then is that the what you show up as at the party, what you show up as, good morning, Freddie, so good to see you. What you show up as is a function, is an outcome of your originality, of your laughing crazily with your best friend, saying, how ridiculous does this look? On a scale of 1 to 1,000, how insane is this? And then, so you have the contest, and whatever the prizes are, it's for originality, it's for, color blindness, it's for best intentions gone astray. Department of Unintended Outcomes. So when we were having that conversation, what it came from is the people who need and love and just have the most fun doing when they are collectors, when they love nostalgia, when they like stamps, whatever it is that strikes our fancy. It was very embarrassing. We're talking, and he was saying, I'm a collector, and a lot of people are collectors. And I said, I don't do that. And he said, okay, here's an idea. Dewey says, here's an idea. Let's just pause. He said, I'll wait right here. We're doing I'll wait right here while you turn around. Turn around. And I'm thinking, oh, the shoes. Oh. I said, never mind. Sorry. I didn't think of shoes as a collection. I thought of them as my children, but and why do people love them? What does it represent? What emotional little bell does it ring? And we're talking about the way people invest themselves in the moment in time that resonates, that shines, that is a standalone, oh my gosh. And we were saying it's unforgettable. There's so many things in our lives that are unforgettable. However, for each of us, there is a moment, sometimes there's more than one, but definitely, and of varying sizes, but definitely there is at least one turning point, aha, that we sometimes even know when it's happening. This is going to go down in my history as a moment. And I remember a long time ago, I was working at the registration table for a Canadian fighter pilots reunion. And this of course would have been World War II. And all these people were coming and signing up, and I'm there. And there were two fellows who were laughing and joking and, you know, nudging each other and so on. And they came up and they were signing, and and I had, you know, blank badges. And I said, and what's the name you're known by? And one guy with gray hair, silverback, a silverback guy, said, "I'm known as Red." And I said, "Of course you are." I wrote Red. And then the other fellow who was bald, and I said, "And you?" And he said, "Curly." And I said, Are we pulling my leg?" And they said, "Oh, no, no." And they had pictures, you know, and the one fellow had bright red hair. He was as red as they come. And then the other guy had this massive head of tight curls that, you know, you close cropped, but you could see it was curly. And I said, "So, gentlemen, is it fair to say that the two of you look like a couple of troublemakers? Is it fair to say that that moment when you first got together, is that the standout?" And they both laughed and said, "Absolutely." And good morning, Susan. And I said, "Why? What was it?" And I forget which one of them now, Red or Curly, obviously, said, "We were very young and we were very naive. We were very proud to serve our country. We had no idea what we were getting into. And it was the first time we'd left home. And just getting on that transport to leave was a beginning. It was the biggest first ever." And he said, "And then, you know, we managed to get through it. We managed to, and it was tough odds. Fighter pilots are pretty much putting themselves out there, you know. And when we came back, when we mustered out, we both knew we would never have another job like that. And thank goodness we would never have a job like that, because how many times are you going to be that lucky? However, we would never have another job like that. We would never, ever be on the edge, on the brink of every day again." And I said, "Are you still working?" And, "Oh, yeah, retired. You know, this is kind of something to keep us busy." And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I have a coffee shop." And I said, "Oh, that's cool." And he said, "Yeah, yeah." And I go in every day and I make sure everybody's doing stuff. And sometimes I get behind the counter. And the other one, I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I sell carpets at Sears." And I said, "Wow. And is that okay?" And the carpet salesman said, it's something to get up in the morning and put your pants on for." And I'm talking to the public, and they're telling me about their home, and they're telling me about they're looking for the exact perfect piece to add to the look. And it's so magical for them, you know. It's got nothing to do with I had my life on the line. That was the big job. And I'm okay with this. And you know, the coffee shop guy, the same thing. And I said, "You don't feel like the guy who was the star of the football team, and when he scored the winning touchdown, that'll be the only thing that ever mattered?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we have moments like that. We do, of course. I mean, how you couldn't not." However, the way you keep the unforgettable alive is you keep refreshing it. You don't stand on the ceremony, the locked in time moment. You compare it with other things. You talk about it in different ways. And we love coming to these reunions because we want to see what the rest of the fellows and the gals are up to. We want to meet their grandchildren. We want to know what's going on. And that way, every time we get together, the unforgettable has, new cushions and curtains and a doily on the table. And that, I think, is something that we easily forget. And Dewey and I were talking the other day about an inevitability for event organizers. And um, any event is essentially the same thing. We're inviting people to come together to experience a thing together. And whatever the event is, the theme is that. And what are we bringing? What are we doing? How are we decorating? What are we charging? It's the same exercise. When you're talking about cosplayers, when you're talking about comic cons, when you're talking about nostalgia, when you're talking about people who have different reasons to collect the collectibles and show up, for people with social anxiety, showing up in costume and being able to be part of, echoing and mirroring their favorite character or their favorite game or their favorite show or expression. Unless you provide a framework for that is constantly changing up just a little, just enough, it becomes same old, same old. Oh yeah, the sword guy is always on that corner. Oh yeah, the bucket guy with the headless thing is always on that corner. Yeah, the hot dog station is always over there. It's nice and it's comforting that it's familiar, but it also can very quickly feel stale. And does it take, have you hit your goal of 500 subscribers yet? No, I haven't. I haven't, Freddie. I'm still at 310 or something like that. What I find, of course, I'm in my car on my way to work and my Wi-Fi is playing games. Universe tweaking with the Wi-Fi. So what we have an opportunity to do, and this is what Dewey and I and the rest of the team are talking about, is taking a concept that everybody within this community, taking a concept that everybody understands, and doing a reset. Doing a what? Oh, Pivotry. Oh, doing Pivotry on it. Using Pivotry. Oh, and then leveraging change to make it exciting. To make everybody see that they have a role to play. They're not a spectator showing up. They have a role to play in refreshing it, in resetting it, in refocusing it, in repurposing it. So that when they come, they say, yes, it was my idea to put that over there. Yes, I went to the town hall meeting to discuss it. And I said, every year I've always wondered why we haven't done this. And they said, what a good idea, Bob. Thanks very much. So yes, everybody wants to feel that connection. Everybody wants to feel that their voice is heard, that they are essential, that their participation matters. Not, you have to stand outside and wait in line. Yes, I know it's raining, but we're not opening for another 10 minutes. Nobody wants to be that person. Nobody wants, until you just wait quietly until the bell goes, and then you line up. Nobody wants to be in that scenario. Everybody wants to feel that this thing that we're in, this ride that we're on, this journey that we're navigating, is exciting and new because of us, with us, for us, of us, about us. If it's our event, we should have input. We should be able to say, hey, what about this? And so when I was throwing out ideas, and we were laughing very hard at some of the ideas. No, of course, we're not going to do that, but And I said, and the idea of the contest, the idea of, first of all, belonging. So we're talking about membership. We're talking about a family. We're talking about a community, a tribe, a bunch of us, right? Us. A whole bunch of these, as opposed to those. And it's not enough just to be part of it. We want to stand out. We want to be recognizable in different ways. So what is it? What is the element that makes us different? What is it that we represent? Oh, and we've had so much fun, the whole team, getting on the calls and saying, what about this and what about that? And every one of us has said, because this has only come to life in like the last 2 weeks, all told. Every single one of us has said, why didn't we do this sooner? Why didn't we think of this sooner? How exciting, how much fun is this? And when everybody separately says that, you know you're onto something. Because of course there's going to be someone who says, well, you know, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes. You know, I called up my Mad Max, who is actually, you know, Mad Matt, the genius designer of this. And I said, I have a plan. And he said, well, of course you do. And so Matt and Anne are on this call with me. And I said, here's the idea. And they're both grinning. And Anne said, I know you could do this. And Matt saying, oh, and we could do that. And I'm just sitting there and I'm sitting back. And then they both stopped, and she looked at him and raised an eyebrow, and he looked at me and he said, you wanted this, I suppose, an hour ago? And I said, no, take your time. End of business? He said, today? And I said, no, there's 5 days in a week. It's only Monday. They're both laughing. I'm laughing. We all know that I'm almost kidding. And he said, you know, I really like it. I like it a lot, and I think it's really easy and doable. And Anne, who is really the voice of reason. I mean, she's a riot. She's a riotous voice of reason. And she's saying, what about this? And what about the logistics? And then when I was talking with my social media and my tech, and they're saying, so what are we looking at for the time here? And what are we looking about delivery? And, you know, and then logistics, Greg and Gary and I are going to meet today. And the conversation is, it's got legs. It's got legs and layers. It doesn't have 2 legs, and it doesn't have 100 legs. It's maybe more like an octopus. And so it can go in almost any direction. We want to make sure that we're not all over the map. We want to make sure that it's achievable, and we want to maintain the fun, excitement, we can't do this without you element that is so inclusive and so creative and so interesting and surprising. And so each meeting, you know, it's like we have these little chess pieces, and each meeting you push this forward and then talk to the next, and then push this forward and then reset everybody. And we're gradually moving this thing forward. And at no time have I hit a wall. At no time have I said, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know. I don't see how that's coming together. But when I've had the question, I've reached out to the right person, and we've had that brainstorming conversation. And the others, you know, at this point, we're not sitting around a table lengthy brainstorming together, because it takes too long to be in rotation to be heard. So I'm still the hub of the wheel, and we're getting the details, and then I'm reporting back and getting more details and reporting back and getting more details, because you can't brainstorm and see new things if I'm just waiting for someone to report to me. That I can't create in that kind of a vacuum. You know, one of the conversations I was having with Billy was, you know, to what extent are we using AI? And I said, none at all. We're not using AI because it requires too much time to fact check what it's done. If I have to fact check what it's done, I might as well do it. If I have to fact check it, I might as well just give it to a human who can be on the phone with me, and we can discuss the originality of our concept, and the sky's the limit. What if we do this? Because people are forgetting, you know, that AI is an aggregating tool. It's a gathering tool. It's a funneling tool. You give it the keywords, and it goes and gets everything that looks like a traffic light. It says, here you go. And if you say, can you alphabetize them? Sure, here you go. But then you think, no, I don't want to. And it's labor intensive. And by the way, AI, did you ask permission to use these images? doesn't understand what you're talking about, because no, it doesn't have to ask permission. And therefore it can plagiarize. Therefore it can use copyrighted content without permission. It can't be prosecuted, but the minute I use it, I can be prosecuted, and the whole project can go down the toilet. So this is a human function. This is a human concept, a human function, a multi-this team concept to create something nobody has quite done the same way before, in order to leverage and monetize an outcome that nobody has quite done the same way before. And the whole process in this is approaching Halloween, absolutely. Trick or treat, absolutely. Costume party, absolutely. Toys and games and fun, absolutely. Walk with people who are going to go house to house, door to door in this changing world, absolutely. Now, what's different? What's the element we haven't done before? And I'm sure somebody's going to say, Abby, we did a scavenger hunt 42 years ago. There's nothing new. Okay. Then let's find a different way to do it than yours. Tell me yours and let's up the ante. And we will credit you for the contribution. This is why this thing I'm just talking about right now, that I'm taking the time right now to talk about. Here it is. It's the 17th of October. We have 2 full weeks until Halloween. Why not, instead of going to the costume store, why not go to the thrift store? Why not have your list of things and trade lists with somebody? There's an idea. I'll buy your stuff, you buy my stuff. Why don't we add the word accomplice to the process of creating the fun and the crazy and the childlike, wonderful silliness that Halloween is? Why don't we add the buddy system? Why don't we add competition? Why don't we have prizes? Why don't we have a great time? And if we want to do something really special, if we don't buy a costume and we decide that it's a scavenger hunt and we have to go and look, and maybe we make a list of thrift stores, maybe we make a list of Salvation Army, maybe we make a list of donation boxes. Why don't we bring costumes from before to donate and then come away with? Why don't we look for ways to give back rather than collecting? Why don't we do that? And when we've done our event, at the end of the night, when we've gone door to door, we've had people for the party, or we've done something at the office, why don't we say, and there's an entry fee. And whatever the entry fee is, whether it's for the food bank or whether it's for, snowsuit fund or collecting blankets, mittens, socks, why don't we have a bin when we show up? And that's the trick. That's the trick. And the treat is the satisfaction and the fun and the get together and the friends and the craziness. And where on earth did you find that? Did they have another one? Conversations that would come from the scavenger hunt. And maybe you go in partners, and maybe you go in a team of 3, and maybe you get together, and however you want to plan it. It's like the crazy stupidity of 3-legged races that are a disaster waiting to happen. Why don't we look at the thing we have always done the way we've always done it and add a layer? I'm going to go to a Halloween party in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do sort of what we did last year. I got invited for the first time last year because last year was the first time I was back in Ottawa, and I went as a fortune teller, and I read people's palms, because, by the way, I actually can. And it's one of those little side things that I learned a long time ago. And so I'm in a corner in the kitchen where everybody comes in to refresh their drink, and I'm over in the corner and I'm reading people's palms and telling them, and we had a lineup, and somebody was keeping a stopwatch. Okay, okay, click, ding, you're done. I'm not finished. Yes, you are. And so it was a different element, you know. So I'm gonna add a different layer this time. I'm not saying what it is because I don't want to give away the surprise, but I thought about it last year and I didn't do it, but I thought, no, this year I can do it. And so that's really a fun thing. And the people who came to the party last year who didn't get in line early enough for me to read will have that experience, but the people who did are going to have something different, right? Because it's different. And I'm thinking that's really exciting. It's like at Fanaticon Ottawa, I have now gone, this 2025 is going to be the 5th year. So this will be 5, and I did one in Brockville as well. So that will be 6 actually. So I've done 5 events with Lance, and every booth, every year, I add a layer every time. And so the second time, people would say, "Hi, we're back," and I would say, "Hey, I've got something new to show you." Really? And so the third year, "What's new this year?" And they're telling their friends, saying, "Oh, you should have seen the first year; it was incredible." And they come and say, "Yeah, I hear that you do new stuff every year." And why that's part of this conversation is because when you go to an event, when you go to one of these events and you've got somebody selling their collectibles, they set the booth up the same way every time. Why? Well, because it's easy. And because I got a day job and I got kids and the cat threw up on the rug and I forgot to change the oil in the car. And so everything was kind of frantic at the last minute. So I'm lucky I'm here at all. And I'm just going to go with familiar, with same old, same old. Except the people coming, they're looking for excitement. They're looking for magic. They're looking for wonderment, right? Otherwise, why would they get off the couch? So we need to give it to them. We need to do something completely different. And I was having this conversation with Anne and Matt, and they told me something. And I said, "Oh my gosh, well, there we are. There's an element to add to the booth. There's an element. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where I'm going to do it. I don't know where there's room for it, but I'm going to do it because I have to do it. It's such a good idea. It has to be done." So I'm going to track down the details, and then I'll talk to Greg, and he'll burst out laughing, and he'll say, "Well, of course, why not?" And we'll figure it out. So when people come, highly visible, and "Oh my God, where did you get that from?" Or, "Oh, I've seen him before. He was over at such and such," or "She was over at such and such." And so, but so what happened? I got such and such into my boat, and it's here. So the idea that it is always evolving and growing and changing means that it's alive. It means that we have joined something dynamic, something fabulous, something intriguing. The one thing that I have never done before, oh dear, I've just thought of another thing to do for the booth. The one thing I've never done before in the booth is to walk people through a scenario, an improv scenario. Yes, well, we're going to have to look into that. I'm going to have to talk to my my improv specialists on my team and see if I can actually pull this off. So you see how exciting it is, and how it's not how easy it is, because when I come up with an idea for an event, people say, "What? Where are you from?" Like, what were you? Were you dropped on your head as a child? And I said, "Well, you don't think it's a good idea?" "No, it's great. It's just, how do you?" And I say, I'm staring at a picture and I'm looking for the thing that isn't there. I'm looking for what's missing. I'm looking for the hole in the fabric, and then I'm filling it. And I want to explain this in a very, it's an important way. So nature doesn't like a vacuum. This is physics. There is no vacuum in our, we have met vacuous people, but it doesn't mean that there's actually nothing in their heads. It's just there's nothing that they're using really effectively at the moment. Since there is no such thing as a vacuum in nature, then when something is missing from a logical process, a logical system, a logical set of sequence steps, nature rushes to fill it. Nature pushes forward an alternative. So, and I think I've talked about this before. There's a science experiment they used to do in high schools to prove this to you, how interesting it is about the vacuum principle. And by the way, the vacuum principle is not a Dyson, okay? So they would get a small glass jar with a very narrow neck, and they would get a hard-boiled egg still in the shell. And they would also get a box of wooden matches. And they would put the bottle on a counter, and all the students would gather around and look at it. And the teacher would light a wooden match and drop it into the glass bottle. And it's burning because if for fire to continue, there has to be oxygen, and there's lots of oxygen because the glass bottle, it has a narrow opening, but it's an opening. And so when you burn oxygen, more comes in because it's a vacuum. It's pulling it. If you take the hard-boiled egg that's still in its shell and you put it on the neck, you put it on the top of the opening, now you have an interesting problem. Because the flame is consuming the oxygen now in a closed space, the pressure inside the bottle is not as strong as the pressure outside the bottle. Inside weak, outside strong. What happens is, because of the flame needing oxygen, suddenly, before your very eyes, disbelieving eyes, the egg, which is bigger than the opening in the neck of the bottle, goes foop, and it is sucked in, pushed in to the bottle in order to eliminate the vacuum. The pressure is equalized immediately, and the match burns itself out. The trick, of course, is getting the egg back out of the bottle, because in the neck, when we look around and we see that nobody is addressing a particular problem, nobody is looking at the department of the unintended outcome and saying, oh, well, what are we going to do about that? Nobody is stepping back to examine a fundamental flaw in a conversation, in logic, in a process, in a procedure, in a system, in a relationship that is creating an imbalance of power, is creating a vacuum. Nobody's seeing it because they're standing too close. And the big conversation that I have always around fraught political times, and we have an election in the United States coming, and there's elections all over the place, and there are, unless you have a very particular kind of party in power, there's always a balance. There's always one party and another party, and they have opposing views. And sometimes, as it gets close to the election, the rhetoric gets heated because each side wants the vote. Each side wants to be the one chosen to be the captain of the boat and say, we're going this way. When the rhetoric gets really nasty and sharp and unhelpful, as my therapist friends say. I do this, and I'm very happy to share it with you because this is the Department of Unintended Outcomes. I say to people, my dad was Air Force, right? So I've spent my whole life looking at airplanes, either from the outside or the inside, or my father talking about what we're going to do about these, and now we need those, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you a thing I've noticed about airplanes. There's a part in the middle where you put stuff, and there's a wing on either side to keep it from falling out of the sky. And there's an engine in there somewhere, and there's a guy running it, making sure everything's trim and safe and so on. There's a guy, and then there's another guy who's assisting him just in case this guy falls over. So there's two of them. And then you've got assistants making sure that everything else is going well. And sometimes you have people, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's just the two guys. However, one guy, two guys, 40 guys, 200 people, doesn't matter. What you always have is the part in the middle where you put stuff, and you have a wing on either side so that it doesn't fall out of the sky. That's it. And the job of the people in the front is to make sure that it doesn't fall out of the sky, that it gets off the ground, goes where it's supposed to go, comes back to the ground, and doesn't fall out of the sky. That's the job. Correct? Yes. What would happen, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, humans of all shapes and sizes, what would happen if one of the wings fell off the plane? Let's say you're in the security boarding area, and you're looking at the people that you're going to spend the rest of your life with on the deserted island after something. And you look out and you realize that the plane you're looking at that you're about to get onto only has one wing. You can kind of see the one on the other side, but there's no wing on this side. And you say to yourself, that's probably not good. I'm going to go with not good. And so you will go over to the security person. You say, hello, could you walk with me for a moment? Well, I'm very busy. Walk with me for a moment. You take them by the arm firmly to the window. You say, tell me what's missing on that plane. And they look out and they say, well, oh. And then they run and make a phone call. And then you see many people running out to the plane because it's one wing. What will happen? Well, it won't take off, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. Or if it does, it'll take off for about that much and then it'll go, right? Because balance in all things equal opposite physics. So we're all on board with me, right? We all understand that what I'm saying is immensely logical. Correct? Yes, of course. Here we go. When people are arguing that this is the only party and that party must be destroyed, that party must be robbed of all its power, this is the only party, this is the only wing that matters. You see where I'm going? What they are accidentally doing as new employees in the Department of Unintended Outcomes is that they're setting themselves and everybody else around them up for a disaster of spectacular proportions. Because you need two wings. Furthermore, the person who is going to sit at the head of the party to be the one who makes the final decisions, signs the signature on the page. As with the metaphor of the pilot, I want the pilot to think that flying the plane safely up, along, down, my work here is done, would be the pilot's primary job, primary focus. And that the associate pilot would feel the same way, that the most important thing is leaving, carrying on, arriving safely. That's the job. It's not the job of the pilot to say, when nobody's looking, let's hobble the other wing. Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll do that. Nobody but look. Once we've left the ground, when nobody's looking and nobody can, say, hey, you can't do that. Yeah, let's detach that one wing we don't think is right. Let's do that. That'll work. Yeah, because then we'll have nothing. And every time I walk in a room, people are talking politics, I turn around and I leave. Same with religion. Same with all this stuff that it says we, they. It's not how it works. No matter how much you would love it, it's not how it works. Now, I know I have digressed way off the topic of scavenger hunt for Halloween costumes, except that I haven't. What I'm saying with that analogy and that story, and me thinking, we got to get people far enough back to realize what they're actually saying and doing. Get far enough back to realize that the Department of Unintended Outcomes is not a place you want to work. Everybody's tap dancing very quickly, all the time. If we want, in a more complicated world, where more frustrated, unhappy people are looking for dramatic, sometimes dangerous, sometimes violent, sometimes heartbreaking, tragic ways to get attention, to feel important, to make a mark. What we want to do is we want to be able to celebrate. We want to be able to enjoy our time together. We want to be able to have fun by connecting and knowing each other in a safe way. And the only way we can do that is leverage the changes around us. If the world is a more dangerous place, then let's find a way to make our corner of it safer. And let's connect the dots with the next corner and the next corner and the next corner. And let's build a wonderful arena where everybody is welcome to contribute and participate and leverage their ideas and build friendships and party safely. Not worry about our kids, not worry about them finding things in the candy. Let's go back to a simpler time when the way we had fun was we got together with all our generations, with warts and all, and did the best we could. We raised a barn. Not that I'm suggesting we do a barn raising, but the analogy is the same. So, Halloween costume scavenger hunt? Yes? No? Okay. How about this? How about you consider that as the template? Halloween costume, got it. What's the group activity? Contest. And what is the theme of the contest? I've said scavenger hunt. You fill in the blank. And what is the sidebar treat or trick we must perform to elevate the give and receive and conversation and fun? You got 2 weeks to do it, kids. It's not like I'm coming at you at the 11th hour and saying, can I borrow a sandwich board and an elephant? Oh, Abby, if you called yesterday, we're out of elephants. Think about the ways that we can build our tribe. Think about the ways the people we know, whether we work with them, whether we live next door to them, whether it's the bus driver, whether whoever it is, you go to a local coffee shop. Can we do a scavenger hunt for costumes for Halloween in the coffee shop? Can we make it a group activity? Do people bring something? Is that a possibility? Who knows? Do all the bus drivers decide that they're going to come in costume? They're all going to come as stormtroopers. Think of a new, fresh way to wake up and fluff up a love tradition. All right. We'll talk about it a little bit more next week. In the meantime, I have team meetings coming out my ears for the first time in my entire life, and it's very exciting. It's lots of fun. So I've got a busy weekend ahead of me. I also have some paperwork that I have to take care of. And I hope that you too are going to have a good weekend, a safe weekend, a fun weekend. And whatever your weather is, whatever the situations are, we're in this together. Together we are unforgettable. And very soon I'm going to talk to you about a way to actively participate in that. It's a change leveraging strategy. It's Pivotry in motion, in real time, that instead of talking is actually a physical thing. And I think you're going to love it. So between now and Tuesday, you know the drill. Be good to you. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones. They deserve it too. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching. It's always the best time when you're watching.